this is probably the most exciting episode to date. I'm super pumped up. I had 4 extra meals yesterday. I took extra pre-workout last night. I took pre-workout this morning. I bought every product on Cutler Nutrition just to prepare for the morning of this. We have the one and only Mr. 4-time Mr. Olympia announcing a major comeback, Jay Cutler.
Come on, you know better.
So I couldn't be more pumped. It's rare that I get not just someone I grew up watching, but I'm happy enough to call a friend and someone from the neighborhood in the building. So, you know, it's easy for me to throw it to guests and say, you know, how did you get here and tell your story? But your story's been out there so much. I thought it would be, you know, really good to talk about some different stuff. And to start it right off, I'm so excited with all this shit that you're doing right now and everything that you get your hand in. And I want to talk about how you find the time to always have your hand in so many different things. You came in here today, you're going to be talking about Built a little bit. You have, you know, just your hand in so much different stuff like we were talking about before we got started. How do you find the time? How do you travel? How do you still stay in shape? How do you do this? You know, because I see that everybody sees the Machiavelli motivation videos and sees all this stuff, and people don't realize how exhausting it really is. How do you do it?
It's actually routine to me. I mean, coming where I come from, you know, we came from East Coast, and it's you know what? When I sit down and you actually mention all these things, I'm like, damn, I do a lot in a day, right? But you know, and I travel most weekends, especially the last few and upcoming weekends. But for me, you know, I've taken a lot of the opportunities in front of me and now advanced into, you know, really creating a brand. And I think really from the beginning, if I rewind and look from the beginning of my career that started at 18, I don't think I necessarily pinpointed being a world champion bodybuilder more than I pinpointed being a successful entrepreneur, which I grew up in a family of. You know, my brothers own their own business, concrete, and I worked with my brothers, and I was kind of my own boss from day one, and I tried working jobs that I had to listen to someone and dictate what I kind of did, and that just really wasn't for me. So I knew, you know, eventually I wanted to be someone that was my own boss and make my own schedule. And fortunately for me, I'm able to balance a lot of things in that schedule, but I'm not the busiest guy on the planet.
Working for somebody sucks. That goes without saying. And it's tough. I've watched you, you know, very carefully and you know, calculated through the years, make decisions and kind of watch your career a little bit. Now, you were coming up a little bit before me. We were coming out of, when I say the same area guys, he was a Worcester rat. So those guys in Worcester, you know, can't trust them. But I was in East Boston, so we kind of grew up around the same haunts and gyms and everything else. Jay was probably about 4 years ahead of me, and I can say this, growing up in the neighborhoods that we grew up in and came from, and my brother-in-law was a Worcester guy. He was a Worcester burn coat guy. So I know the area. You know, you can never imagine getting away from the White Hen, if that makes sense, or getting off the stoop or getting out of the neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. It's always tough, and I know people have written that, you know, 0 to 100 story 100 times. It's not so much about that. It's just you never could have imagined that you'd be flying around. Like, I couldn't imagine if somebody asked me at 17, you know, you'd be running a podcast and you have all these people on as guests and you'd be friends with all these people. I never would have imagined it. And I guess, you know, could you have ever in your you know, all those years ever sat back and said, this is what my life would be?
You know, you made a good point, because I grew up in Sterling, so we just say, like, you just mentioned East Boston, which you have probably a city you were from. Where are you from?
East Boston. But
what's the name of the city? Like, there's East Boston?
Yeah, there's East, South, East.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, I came from a place called Sterling, which is a suburb of Worcester County, right? Mm-hmm. You mentioned burn coat. I was a Wachusett graduate. So no one ever leaves where I come from. I was actually from the town where the nursery rhyme, Mary Had a Little Lamb, came from. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Like Mary Sawyer. The lamb followed her to school, and that's a real thing. So that's kind of known where Sterling is. But for me, like I never imagined, like you said, my dream was to escape there and to move to California. And I actually pursued a degree in criminal justice when I first started, but I wasn't sure what I wanted to do necessarily, but I knew I wanted to do something, and it wasn't in Massachusetts.
Right. No, and you know, I think it's just so overstated. People don't understand when they say, "Oh, you remember where you come from." Of course, we all, you know, coming from the East Coast, we all have a hard work ethic, and I say hard work ethic because we're all like a little hardened at birth. We kind of grew up with those parents that were a little chiseled. The winters kind of chisel you a little bit, so you grow up a little bit, you know, in that vein. It was one of those things that I think coming up, you just learn to get kicked in the face a little bit. So you're kind of used to it. You hear no a lot, you know. Like I grew up, I mean, we didn't have, like I tell people all the time, the first time I made decent money, you know, I went and bought name brand cereal. Like that was like a big deal to me. Like I was like, I'm going to go get name brand cereal.
Like what?
I wanted like, you know, Lucky Charms was like a big deal. I went and bought like a $6 box of cereal, you know, when I first got my real paycheck. I was like, I'm going to have name brand fucking cereal. And I'm sure my whole family would agree. That was like one thing I still brag about today. Like I'm eating name
We
brands.
weren't allowed to have sugar cereal in our house.
We're going to get to that. But we're going to get to the whole Jay Cutler diet that never stops because you're giving Mike O'Hearn a run for his money here with the looking young
He's
thing.
older than he's older.
Yeah, with the looking young thing. So, you know, coming up in that area again, you know, to everyone that's listening, it's a tough grizzled area, and only recently with the movies coming out and all the bullshit, it's kind of been highlighted, you know, the toughness of the area. And, you know, you get to a point where I think, you know, it's right before 96, I think, if I'm guessing correct, you went to California, right?
Yeah, I went in 93 for the first time.
Yeah, because I remember briefly you had just kind of won the Arnold twice, and it was somewhere around that time in between, that gap in between, you made the leap. Was it something that you felt like you had to do? Because I know when I moved and I first went down to Miami, then I went to Montana. I went to New Hampshire, then Miami, then Montana, and then here. You know, you said you always knew it wasn't going to be in New England or in Mass. And I asked you once, I said, would you ever go back? And you said probably not to live. But we were talking a little bit outside, and I think you still have a little bit of love for space, you know, wide open space. I could see, you know, Jay Cutler, the rancher, maybe one day, or Jay Cutler in the country again and building a house or hiding out. Do you ever crave getting away from the spotlight or getting away from it?
You know, I do. I mean, that's my safe place, right? I mean, and when it's all said and done, I mean, you just kind of want peace and everything. And for me, you know, I finished a bodybuilding career that's been long over for many years, 6 years now, on the competitive side. But, you know, my brother still has 60 cows, and he raises pigs, and, you know, they have a farm over there. And, you know, it's a very peaceful life, but at the same time, we talked about, man, that would be great, you know, to eventually do that, but you think I'd be bored after
I think you'd be bored. I think you'd be bored. And I'll tell you why. And I'm not saying this like we're asshole buddies, but I'm saying it like I know you're still at the point in your life where you're pushing, you're pressing, and you want to press and you want to accept new challenges and you want to take on new stuff and you like being in the mix. And that's a little bit where I was at. Like when I was in Montana, I felt like I was out of the mix. Are you at a point where you could go do it for a few months out of the year? You know, I think you could. I think you'd enjoy some of that. We were talking about like what Dana and Rob did. I like what they did, but I don't know that you could step that far back because like we said, you have your hand in so much stuff and you have so much going on and you still stay insanely conditioned and on the diet. And we were talking about this, you know, why is it, you know, everybody's asked the questions of every bodybuilder. Why is it you still, you know, you see Dorian and Dorian's gotten really slimmed down, trimmed down. He's doing the yoga. Why is it you still stay in the condition you stay? You just love it.
It's because it's genetically easier for me, to be honest. I mean, I still follow a pretty regimented diet, and I do train, you know, 5 days a week or whatever. But to be honest, John, I don't wake up every day and like, oh, I can't wait to train chest today or do back. I don't even know what I'm training half the time. I'm very instinctive when I go to the gym. And I get up, like this morning, I got up and did, you know, my morning walk, which is more for my mind rather than my physique. And fortunately, it benefits both. So for me, right now, you know, I'm just looking at, okay, I don't really have any body goals, but at the same time, I got into bodybuilding because I had the genetics to do it. The reason I stayed with it because as I was great at it. I mean, it's a very simple formula. People ask me all the time when I travel or, through social. Like, what motivates you? Well, there's a lot of things that motivate me, but the most motivating thing is always seeing improvements or seeing success in all the things that I do. Just like business. I mean, if I'm successful at business, it gets me more enthused to move forward. And fortunately for me, I've been able to do a lot of different things and be successful at it. But that doesn't mean I've had failure also. I mean, we talk about that Massachusetts getting kicked down. I lived in California. I live in Las Vegas. You wake up, you kind of know what the weather is on a daily basis, right? And that's probably the difference, you being from Massachusetts, Montana, whatever. You don't have to cancel plans based on, unless it rains. That's about it. You don't get any real problems with, there's a snowstorm or something like that, where in Massachusetts, like, it was unpredictable. It rained, it ruined everything. You have a lot of optional days when you live on the West Coast where we are, because a majority of the days are really nice days. So if you do outdoors activities, or if you have events where it brings you outdoors, you can rely on that happening.
Oh yeah, it's more predictable.
Yes,
you can predict it a little bit more, so your schedule becomes more predictable,
and you get spoiled. You don't get as many letdowns, and I think that's where people, if you notice, like I notice, people don't work as hard on the West Coast as they don't have to. I think they work smarter, but maybe not as hard.
I agree with that. That's a great way to put it. I think I never thought of that. I think on the West Coast, yeah, there's a much more, like, I look at, like, my coach at jiu-jitsu, Casey Halstead. He owns, like, 6-10 planets. He has a very chill approach to everything, and you kind of have developed the same thing over time. You're just kind of like, like I always say when people, it's funny. I was talking to a guy, I told you last night about you, and I said, if you come up to Jay, because he goes, it shows, I wanted to come up to him, I just never did. I said, just make sure whatever you have to say, make sure you capture his attention right then and there, because you have a very laid back, chill approach. You just be like, yeah, that's awesome, man. Right on. It's just a very laid back.
Yeah, but I don't get excited about.
You don't get excited about anything.
Anything, no.
It's and it's one of the things people ask me all the time about my relationships and how I have all these relationships, and I say, like, I was never a starstruck kid. I was never. They go, how do you talk to this one or that one? Or when I met the presidents, I'm like, I just talk to them like they're normal people. I'm like, I never was like, oh wow, that's so and so. But I think the West Coast develops, because I've become even more laid back in my approach to things and just more chill. And you're making the same money, you know what I'm saying? I think in Massachusetts and New England, you're pressing, but pressing that hard causes you to make mistakes. I think you make more mistakes. You slip a lot more, you fall a lot more, and then, like you said, with the weather, it's just an unpredictability that goes on up there. But coming back to the discipline, and I was thinking about this. Amidst all the chaos of traveling, because I look at guys like you, I look at certain people. Amidst all the chaos, you still maintain the discipline, and I think that's something that it's the same with me. I'm still making sure I get my 5 or 6 meals. I mean, I'm not like you guys, but at the same time, I try to stay and keep pace and get the calories in, get the protein in. So I kind of love the chaos. I call it like organized chaos, But to everybody out there, what do you say to them when they say, "Geez, I don't have the time. I don't have the, you know what I mean? I travel too much."
It's excuses, man.
Yeah.
Like, it's easier to make an excuse than just go full tilt, And you mentioned the nutrition, and that's like the main thing when you're trying to maintain a body or health or whatever else. I mean, you are what you eat. I always use that term. Very simplistic, but. Everyone's always saying, I'm too busy to do this, or I'm too busy to do that. It's a lifestyle. You have to fit it in. If you truly want it, you'll go after it, and you'll make the time. And people that don't want to make the time, I mean, their focus is not necessarily that thing. So, I can't speak for people, but I would tell people, hey, if you really want something, go after it, and don't make excuses, because that's just the easy way out.
I used to get mad at people. Now I don't anymore when they say that, especially that I don't have the time thing that used to bug me. I used to say, wake up earlier. Oh, I can't, but it's true. I mean, you have to make the time. So, bodybuilding's been so great to you, and you have you're going into a part of your career that's really exciting to watch. You're going to be the ambassador of a Mr. Olympia show now. What's that going to entail, and how can you get into it, or how excited are you about that?
Yeah, listen, it's a great honor for me, especially, like, I haven't won the show in 10 years, 9 years, and the last time I competed was 2013. So, of course, being in Vegas, it's awesome because the show is more relevant here. It takes place here, but they asked me to step forward and be kind of like the face guy. So I put my stamp of approval on the Olympia, but at the same time, I'm working to do some media correspondence type things and really just get out there and promote the experience of the Mr. Olympia, because it's not just, hey, you're coming to watch bodybuilding or fitness or men's physique event. You're coming to a whole experience of like the expo and motivational things that, these expos bring to a lot of people. Getting to go face to face and getting to try different things and involve yourself in different activities that happen over that weekend. And granted, the shows are in two different locations. The show itself is at the Orleans. Some of it's at the convention center.
Do you think they should bring it under one roof?
Yeah.
I absolutely I agree with that.
It used to be at Mandalay Bay. I mean, years ago. That's when it all started. 1999 was the first year I did the show. I was second to last in that show, but they did have a small expo. Remember, that's before expos were really present at the bodybuilding events. The big draw was actually the event, but we didn't also have all the other divisions. It was just men's and women's bodybuilding at that point. And there were a lot less people competing. I mean, there were only 15 guys in the show that year.
Is it more exciting to have a consecutive winner year in and year out and have the battle like you and Ronnie have, or is it more exciting when it's wide open?
I think it's more exciting when it's wide open. I think the same guy winning all the time, although unfortunately, a lot of these sports, there's a dominant figure, right? So it's not like any other thing, like a basketball or baseball. There's certain athletes that do stand out when they're present on championship teams. There's going to be certain factors that allow them the advantage to be able to be the victors, right? So I think it's something we can't fight. I mean, if we look at the records of, Arnold winning 7, Lee Haney winning 8, Ronnie winning 8, Phil Heath 7, Dorian Yates 6, me 4, and then so on and so on. It's just the guys, it's very rare that the guys turn one in and one out the next year.
And it's going to be wide open this year with the recent news of Shawn. And obviously, we're going to wait till that unfolds and that plays out. Hopefully, obviously, that plays the process out. It was, an unfortunate thing, but I mean, do you have anything you want to comment on the Shawn thing?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's unfortunate, and right now it's accusations, right? Until it's sorted out, AMI took the stance that any business or entity would take that has a brand, and they said, listen, we don't want to tie ourselves in the middle of it.
Let him go through the process.
Yeah, we don't. They're not saying that the guy's guilty necessarily. They're saying that, listen, there's a lot of bad press involved around this. We're trying to have a positive outcome with this contest, and it makes a lot of sense if the brand, listen, if the guy gets convicted or doesn't get convicted, either way, there's a spin to it, right? Later, AMI, they supported him by letting him compete, even though he was convicted, and if he's found not guilty,
if he's exonerated, I believe, and I'll say this, Jay, I'll put it out there. If he's exonerated, I think the sport should go out of its way to lift him up as well.
But John, it may be too late by then. I mean, the guy's 44 years old. He's the current champ. I mean, he sits out this year. Next year, he's 45. A new Mr. Olympia rolls in, right? You know how hard it is to
unseat a champion.
Right? It's very, very difficult. I mean, I'm the only one in history to ever lose the title and come back and win it the next year with a new champion in place, right? Dexter. So it's just you're against the odds. And with age, I mean, he's the oldest ever, right, to win the title. He won at 43. And it's going to be a difficult road, because it's not going to happen in the next 2 months that this thing's just going to, unless just some.
No, it's going to be a long process.
Yeah, I mean,
he's going to have to dig his heels in,
and it's going to be a lot of money. I mean, it's unfortunate, and it's going to be exposure that's not something that is a positive thing, right?
No, there's going to be,
and no matter what, it's going to hang over his head till the end of time.
Yeah, there'll be no positive exposure that comes out of it, but obviously it has to play the process out. As much as you try not to condemn someone beforehand, it's got to play the process out. So, obviously, I think AMI did do the right thing. I think it's in the best interest of them to sit back and let the process play out. And I explained it to someone that came at me a little bit with that, and I said, look, if it was the NFL, it was a domestic abuse, they would do the same thing. They would suspend him, or they would make him sit out. And it just is what it is. If he's out and it's wide open, everybody's been throwing names around as who would be a contender. I hate to put you on the spot because I know it's a shitty thing, to try to say, hey, maybe this guy, maybe that guy. Who jumps in now, and who are the top 2 or 3 guys?
Well, hey, John, let me interject.
Yeah, go ahead, Roy.
On that one. So you want to look at a situation like that too. Kind of look back to Mike Tyson's situation back when he was at his prime and he caught a case, and mentally after that, it just changes you.
Right.
And more than likely, that might actually happen to Shawn too.
Yeah, no, it's a good point.
Yeah, but Shawn's a beast. Like he doesn't. I know Shawn on a personal level, so and I was super supportive of him as he made his quest to become the 14th Mr. Olympia. He's very strong in his mind. Yes, this is definitely a setback, but at the same time, he's taking it with stride, right? But right now, it's just it's a mess, Yeah. And yes, but I think it's more of a time thing with his age. Okay, by the time this thing clears up, what can you do with your body? It's kind of like they talk about that ring rust, guys that box, right? Once they're out for a certain time, it's very hard to get. And you're talking to a guy that tried to come back after an injury, and I was sat out and lived real life for almost 2 years, and I came back and I thought, oh man, I'm going to come in and demolish these guys, and I placed worst I placed in 10 years, 6th. And it was an eye opener for me.
Yeah, the age is gonna be definitely a factor because, like you said, he is the oldest to get the crown, so it's gonna be a tough road to hoe for him. It's gonna definitely be a long stride for him. It'll be interesting. It's definitely news. It's not great news, obviously. It goes without saying, but it's gonna open up a huge platform for a lot of other contenders, and maybe there's a young guy. And it's a shame, I think back, Jay, to even Dallas, you know what I mean? And losing him, he would have been a great candidate as well to kind of start to come up, and it would have been, maybe his time. Who else is out there right now that you see kind of really making a big push? Is William Bonac gonna try to go up in the Open?
He's already there. I mean, he was 4th, I think, last year. I mean, but you're talking Rolly. It's Rolly and Brandon
definitely.
Curry's show to kind of win or lose at this point. You got Dexter Jackson lurking there. He's trying to beat Father Time too.
He doesn't fucking age. He's another one.
So you have a lot of guys in contention. I mean, Bonac knocks on that door too. But if you look at the track record from the last year, I mean, with Ramy out, Kai Green out, Phil Heath out, and now your current Mr. Olympia, the show's kind of wow, there's some guys. But listen, I came up from 8th to 2nd. No one expected that. Ronnie Coleman went from 9th to 1st. So we could be talking about a guy like a Steve Kucalo or...
Yeah, I didn't think of Steve.
One of these other guys that just are going to just knock that door down because they make improvements. But the only difference is we saw Steve compete at the Arnold or whatever early in the year, or the Indy or whatever he won to qualify, right? So how much improvement can he make? But, I sat out a year prior before I did this, and then... Ronnie sat out the year prior, so it was just a big shock. Actually, no, he didn't sit out a year. He actually competed in Night of Champions in my first professional show, and he won, which was kind of a shock because he beat Leverone in that show, and I was 11th.
That was the famous Kevin drinking story.
Yeah, and then he went and won the Olympia in '98 the same year. So he competed in May and then came in the Olympia like a beast.
Yeah. No, it's going to be interesting. Are there guys through the years, I got to ask you this because I want to give hope to people that have terrible diets and terrible habits. Are there people out there you look at that make it to the stage because you know them personally and you're just like, what the how the fuck do they get to the stage? And they're home eating cheeseburgers and they just get on stage and they're just ripped, or at this level that's not possible.
Yeah, I don't see it. I mean, I used to see, Ronnie used to eat terrible, Dexter used to eat terrible.
To Dexter
I mean,
too.
These guys used to be able to do it. Juan Morel was another guy that would eat like crazy, binge out like cheat meals. He would post it, but he stopped doing that now. As you get older, it's a little more difficult.
It gets harder and harder.
And listen, there's a lot on the line. I mean, it's not like it's a small purse anymore. I mean, it's still $400,000 for the winner. And I don't think they're as worried about the endorsements as much because the endorsement deals aren't as big as they used to be. But it's still a living.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think the endorsement side is drying up the way that it is? Is it just because I have a theory, we've seen it in the gun world and we've seen it in firearms. I think the endorsements are drying up because the plate for companies to choose from has gotten so much bigger. and it's easier to cast a wider net and develop like those email programs.
I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
Because we have digital, and you can track everything on digital, whereas before you used to take magazine print ads, right? And you wouldn't really know what you were getting out of them. You would just, okay, buy X amount of pages, right? With digital ads now, you can see who clicks through. You can target people. You can do so many more things with digital and know exactly who your audience is and learn that way and make it more visible. And that's where they're spending their money. They'd rather spend money on like a Facebook platform or YouTube or whatever else that is going to allow them a lot more visibility, because let's be real, no one's picking up magazines anymore.
They're done.
And if you're going to pay an athlete to post on Instagram, I mean, how many people actually see Instagram posts these days? I mean, I have 3 million followers on Instagram. I'll do a post and I get, 50,000 likes to 100,000 maybe. I mean, how is that possible when I have 3 million followers? You know what I'm saying?
Because it's gamed, and people don't realize. And you and I have been proponents of this. I've been saying it for a long time. I think Instagram, they cannot figure out, one, how to monetize it properly, and two, they're never going to have video the way that YouTube has it, in my humble opinion. I could be wrong. I've been proven wrong. I don't know everything about technology, but I see a quicker death coming, Jay, in cable TV. Because I think eventually what's going to happen is cable's going to go the way of magazines, and what you're going to have is people are going to all have streaming, because now you have Captain Moneybags at Amazon throwing tons of money at streaming. You have Apple throwing money at streaming. Streaming is going to be where it's going. You're going to buy in our lifetime, you're going to buy a TV, a cord's going to go into it, a power cord. That's going to be it, and it's going to stream off your Wi-Fi. And what you're going to have is you're going to be able to just type in Jay Cutler. You can now. YouTube's the second most used search bar on the entire internet, and you're going to be able to pull up whatever you want, clips, videos. You can watch somebody's life like a TV show, just like you have JTV now. And I can watch you cook meals, feed the dog, if I can take your walks. I mean,
I'll be honest. I mean, listen, besides a Netflix show like that I record,
or a Game of Thrones or something.
I would see, I don't watch that, but I pay over $250 a month for DirecTV because I have so many TVs, right, and throughout my house. I don't know why I'd even waste the money on that stuff, because I've never even really turned the TV on. I'll be honest.
And I'll be straight with you. You waste it because you have it to waste, but the average family doesn't have it to waste, and they're cable TV slowly dying. And the only reason it stays alive is sports. And UFC already sees it. They're going to that ESPN Plus now, and they're streaming everything, and you buy a membership and you watch it, and that's what it's going to be. Why wouldn't you go to open architecture and just have your own streaming? I mean, WWE's already doing it. They're doing the $9.99, and you can stream everything right there. Why wouldn't you go to open architecture? It's a better play. It's the same reason you'd have your own supplement line. Why support someone else's line and someone else's name? And I just see it going that way more and more, and I wouldn't support a dying medium. Now, Instagram's a different animal. Instagram was shot out of a cannon, and it was great for brand ID. And a lot of companies were going to it because it was quote-unquote free. Remember, that was the whole thing. It's free. You sign up. And now people put money into it and photo shoots and everything else. And now everybody's becoming a quote-unquote Instagram sensation or an Instagram star. Do you feel that that's hurting the sport more, that people are coming up that have never competed and they're becoming like fitness? I mean, shit, even I had a fitness deal. People are coming up and they have fitness deals. Do you feel like that's bad for the sport or good?
I don't think it's bad for the sport at all, because it's only bringing more light onto people like myself that have the accolades of professional. Because listen, what people followed us, and not everyone wanted to be a Mr. Olympia. They just said, if I can just take a fraction of what Jay does, maybe I'll look a certain way, right? So we're kind of like, we're like the icons, right? I mean, we reached the high. That's the pinnacle. There's like a shelf, right? And we're at the highest level, like to push the body. So if people can fall in between, that's great. But it also, like, the reason bodybuilding is crashing and the guys aren't getting as much notoriety is because they're just lazy. I mean, that's the real truth. I mean, they just don't. They were stuck in an era where we were just getting paychecks just to sit around and be featured in books and say, okay, by your performance, we're going to pay you. Well, it's not that era anymore. So you have to get out there and work, and you have to promote yourself and build your own brand.
And you got to adapt. And I think, we were talking about it out there. I think Dana and Rob were big pioneers in that. You saw Dana do it, really crush it with that. You were someone who got out there early, and you're pivoting, and I know now you're putting a ton of content on YouTube. You're building that platform. It's great to see. It's awesome to see, because we're getting even more. It's better than the magazines. It's better, Jay. It's honestly better. You're getting more insight. You're getting more. I like seeing you cooking your meals and feeding the.
Well, listen, that's lifestyle,
stuff.
right? I mean, listen, let's be real. I mean, we talk about like the Kardashians, okay? I'm sure you don't watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians, but at the same time, it's changed society where it brought reality TV alive, and now you see so many different reality things. Look at like the Ace family on YouTube, right? I mean, I don't know if you follow that.
Yeah, and then the kid that opens the presents.
It's
right?
just crazy. Like,
and
people just want to look at other people's lives, envy that, or say, okay, I just want a portion of this. And that's what society, unfortunately, they like to get a thrill off watching other people do things. But at the same time, if you have an interest, if you're into food and you're into weights and you're into that kind of thing.
Healthy
you're
lifestyle.
You follow Jay Cutler. I mean, you follow what I do, and you want to know, okay, how's he cook his chicken, and what kind of food. Like I have my trifecta food that I order on my meal service, and how do I prepare that, or what supplements I take with my nutrition line, or drink recovery drinks. What do I do?
And the funny thing is, like with you, like The Rock. It's you guys are always smiling, always having a good time. And that's what I love about the pages. Like people say, oh, how do you choose who you follow, or how do you pick? I'm like, I just love guys that are always having a good time. You know what I mean? And, and I'll watch Guy, and I get a kick out of Guy because he's always angry. Get something going on.
He needs his own podcast.
I've said it. And, I talked to him briefly about it, Jay. I was like, Guy, I'm like, you should really. And he's like, I got the equipment. He talked to what's his face in Jersey, that lunatic, the other one, you know who I mean. And he goes,
Nick?
he told me he's got Nick, and he's got the other guy that does the rants, the loud guy. I forget his name. He's real loud. He has the beard. And I'll tell you, I forget the name. But he does those rants on IG about like, I'm going to the gym and I'm getting laid and all this stuff, the guy. But he's getting into it, and I'm like, you would fucking murder it on a podcast, bro. Murder it with his personality.
That's his next calling when he retires from competing. He's still trying to get his qualification for the Olympia. So
I would still, he's going to Tampa. Yeah. Wish him luck. Good luck, Guy. So I want to get into something that obviously I was a big pioneer of, Tony was a big pioneer of, and so was fitness. And we were talking about this a little out there. We've been talking about this for 5 years, 6 years since, I got into the gun business, and I was one of those guys that was always pushing the fitness side of it. And then I met Tony, and Tony was pushing the fitness side of it. Guys like Pat McNamara out there. What is it about fitness and shooting? Like you said it out there. You said everybody's shooting now. What is it about fitness and shooting that's the draw? I was sitting at the table.
It's an ego thing, John. Yeah. It's an ego thing.
Is it just like, this is what I got to do?
Aggression. It's like, I think guys like, it's like the guys that walk around with like, pit bulls or whatever. They don't expect me to have teacup Yorkies, right?
I love that you do.
So, like, I think it's more of like, oh man, I got muscles, and I should have guns and blow things up, and be able to, it's like, I think it's kind of like a manly thing. It's not like every chick, I think it's more popular now because the guys are getting the girls into it or whatever. But
you got Phil Heath doing silencer co-ads. You know what I mean? It's just, it's out there. And I think now people told me I was crazy. And I was like, if you go back and watch, everybody was so drawn to Commando and Predator and certain things as a kid. When we were coming up, we watched TBS, like movies for guys. Like, I mean, we were all into that stuff. And I just think, like you said, I think it's ego. I think it's just that raw, I'm a guy, I'm going to be, I'm going to have a man cave, and I'm going to have a bunch of guns in it. That's the one step up. It's not just video games and watching the game and having a beer. Now it's, I got to have a wall of guns, and, I got to have that whole thing. But
the problem is, though, John, is like everyone's like, man, I'm going to get a gun because I need to be safe, right? The problem is you can't, like, even, like, if someone charges you, like, if you shoot them, what happens?
Well,
they say people can break into your house, and if they don't have a weapon and you shoot them, you're liable. Does that make sense?
It depends on the state. There's things like castle law that protect you. There's certain instances. Again, my suggestion would be, and I'm not a lawyer, I'm going to give everybody advice. My suggestion is, if you plan on having someone break into your house, so that's your plan, be prepared, because I can tell you this: if somebody breaks into my house, I'm shooting first and asking questions later, and I can guarantee you they'll have some kind of weapon on them.
Yeah.
If you can understand what I'm
course,
saying.
yeah.
I can guarantee you that they'll have a weapon on them when they break in. I'm not asking questions. I'm not going to say, hey, you armed? Hey, you know. But I do believe, and I know you do, I believe in the Second Amendment. I believe in the right to carry. I don't carry all the time. Shame on me for that. But I do believe in the right to protect yourself, and I think that it's a necessary. I think every house should have some level of protection. I mean, just today in this day and age, just being able to say like, hey, I have an alarm system and that's going to protect me, or I'll call the cops, they're going to protect me, I think is total bullshit. And I don't think that's a good plan. But I'm excited to see how much fitness has come into shooting, and I think it's a natural progression. And I've always said to everybody that questioned me on it, and they said, oh, what's with these bodybuilders, getting into guns, and what's that all about? I'm like, look, dude, we need more people in this fight. And they need us. To be honest with you, both sides need each other, because you go to these shows, and these shows, Jay, they're dying. Yeah, they're packed, but it's people selling T-shirts. The shows need the foot traffic. They need the bodies in there. They need the customers. You look at what, we talked about, Redcon and some of the brands. They're getting behind some of these guys. It's the right thing to do. It's the right progression of the sport. I think everybody should get into it. I'm not saying everybody needs to own 50 guns. I'm not saying everybody should. But going to the range, blowing off some steam, if that's your strategy, I think that's awesome. I think it's great. Whether or not your motives are pure, another story. There's a lot of just like you have Instagram models and people popping up. The gun industry has the same thing. People that just get up there and they never train. I'm a big believer in training, and I know that's something important to you. I think you should get out there and you should take a training, take a course, learn how to use the damn thing, take some time. But we digress. So I want to get into this. I finally got you in the building. I got you in here, got you to look at some of our stuff, got you to kind of walk around. We're right down the road from you. What do you think of the building? What do you think of K-var and meeting some of the team?
It's awesome. I mean, I know you've been talking. We've been trying to get up for a minute, but you did a little explanation today, and the building looks awesome, and a lot of space that you have to utilize here, which is great.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun, bringing some of my marketing ideas and some of the branding ideas.
How long has it been now?
I've been here in Vegas now for what, Rory, 2 months? 3, maybe, almost.
I'd say 2 or 3.
Yeah, I ran into Teriyaki Boy, I think, when you first came.
Yeah, I've been here a few weeks then, and we're just kind of getting this off the ground here, getting a little bit of a strategy together, and it's been a lot of fun. And getting folks in, I look at getting guys like you in and Bruce, some of the folks, is I'm getting the best subject matter experts I can.
Are you lining people up for when the fitness shows are here, like USA or Mr. Olympia?
I want to. I need your help.
Okay.
I need your help for sure. If there's anybody out there looking for yeah, for sure. And I was trying to get some of the MMA people in. Anybody, around the defense industry or around training, around that ilk. I want to get in.
I don't think you could be in a better place, though, to be honest.
I don't think so
Vegas.
either.
Vegas is like everyone comes in and out. And, I mean, there's a lot of trades here. And
when I got the call, I was in Miami with Tony training, and I was with to come here, and I weighed on it, and Tony was like, dude, he said the same thing you say. He says, there's not going to be a better place. He goes, everybody goes through Vegas at some point in the year. Anybody who's anybody passes through Vegas. So he was right, and I think you're right. It's absolutely the best spot. I think we get a lot of really cool people in and do some cool stuff, and I'm excited. And yeah, we've been trying to get together for a minute, and I'm just absolutely pumped to have you in. How is it you get to this point with everything that you have going on, that you take on something like being the ambassador for the Mr. Olympia? Do you ever say no to anybody?
Yeah, I mean, I say no all the time. I mean, it really depends on my schedule. It's just like, when we were trying to set up this thing, I mean, we talked about it, but it's like, okay, let's set a time. And, I try to put a lot of things in priority because I don't want to say I'm too busy, right? We get into that thing like, oh, I'm too busy to do this. I'm never too busy.
It's not in your DNA.
Especially you're my neighbor here. Like I have my office next door. So I have to just, change what my norm is. And I think people are they're afraid of change. unfortunately, like I said, I'm my own boss, but my travel time has just been crazy lately because last week I left on a Thursday, came home on a Sunday. This week's a little lighter because I leave on a Friday afternoon and I get home a Saturday morning, so it's not like, oh my goodness, I'm only home X days. And then, I travel the next 2 weekends after this, and then I'm off. No, actually, I'm not off for a while, but I'm not as traveling as heavy.
You're not on the road
4
as
days,
much.
yeah.
What is it, now that you're putting so much out there, what is it that people don't see that Jay does? Because you're putting a ton out there now. What's one thing you're holding back? Like, do you go to concerts? Do you go to movies? Like, I know for Tony, and I put this out there all the time, Tony goes to every movie at the movie theater. He goes and sees fucking Aladdin.
Yeah, I went and saw Aladdin. I liked it. I liked it better than Spider-Man.
I loved Spider-Man. I thought Spider-Man crushed it.
I liked Aladdin better. Did you see Aladdin?
No.
You should watch it. I mean, I know it's, probably not up your alley, but it wasn't for me either, and my girlfriend talked me into going, but
I'll go.
I went roller skating last week, which is kind of
Jay
awkward.
Cutler on skates.
And that was the first time since I was 10.
I
went for a hike last week.
Oh, that had to be rough.
At Red Rock. It was hot, man. It was hot. And I went in the afternoon, which is a mistake. Like, even this morning, I got up and walked outside. And if I go after 9, it's terrible. So if I'm out there like 7:30, 8, it's great. Oh. But I wear like long sleeves when I go outside now.
Like a rash guard or something.
I don't wear anything. I put sunscreen on, and I wear sunscreen all the time anyway. But there's not a lot because I work. I'm going to go work this afternoon, but and I do a lot of my own inventory, and I'm launching with Cutler Nutrition 2 new products this week alone. Do
you want to talk about what they are?
It's one product's Cognition. It's a clarity product. It's a nootropic.
I want to try that.
Yeah, I'll have bottles this week. So I have that coming, and then I have you can see some of the products up there, but
there they are,
it's not listed, I don't think, yet because it's not launched yet. But I have a multivitamin called Safeguard, which I'm launching, which I think is just necessary because if you ask me what supplements are necessary, I would tell you protein, aminos, and multivitamin.
Now, you've been so systematic about what you release with Cutler Nutrition, and I'm glad that you've brought it up. And I know this has been a passion play for you for a long time. You've literally taken and you've put this out there. So much time and care with each product that's come out. Is that just because of your work ethic, or because you want to absolutely make sure that you want to have the best, or is it a combination of both, or is it just you're looking for the best tasting? Because I know so much stuff when we were coming up, especially you, it tasted like shit. There's so much stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I'm aware of what the industry wants.
Yeah.
So, number one, ingredients. Okay, so you have to stay up to speed on ingredients. So I wanted to do a pre-workout that wasn't like a crack powder. So I came up with Prevail, which is more. It works with your neurotransmitters. It's a cognitive product. It does have a little bit of caffeine, but it's more of like what they call a neurofactor. So it has it's a good up feel to it. It's not like, and
you
it doesn't
gave me
crash.
that. I like that.
It doesn't crash, but I also have Amplify, which has 0 stims, but it's more of a hydration NO2 type product where, Himalayan sea salt, it has citrulline in it, so you work more for the pump, and it's great to take at night, but you can stack the two. And then with aminos, like we used to think branch chains were the greatest. Now essential aminos must be mixed with the branch chains. But price and taste is the most important things when it comes to a product. So you have to have those, but you also have to have up-to-speed, transparent formulas. So there can be no hidden ingredients. And also the dyes. There's no dyes in my product. So when you mix it, it's pretty much, if it's whether it's peach or whatever else, it's clear, right?
Because, I remember coming up, and you remember this, we used to drink like the old Myoplex shakes and shit, and they were like sludge when you made them in the blender.
Yeah, because there's a lot of gum fillers in there. But I'm launching the isolate protein, which is coming in August, and I focused on cereal flavors. So 2 flavors, they match similar to, one's Fruit Loops and one's a Cinnamon Toast Crunch. So I'll definitely have to give you some of that.
You
so
hear that,
lunch.
everybody?
Oh, that's
Cereal.
all John right
Yeah,
there.
that's
So
That's
when
all you.
Fuck, I'll drink that on set.
if you ate a bowl of cereal right now and you drank the milk that's at the bottom, that's what my protein tastes like.
How do we get cases of that immediately?
Well, my warehouse is next door, so it's easy for you.
Which leads me to my next question, and it's been a hot button question on Instagram. Is cereal a meal? I know you're going to say no.
No, because there's not enough real calories in there that are all around great.
Cereal,
it's pretty much sugar, depending on what cereal you eat.
Is cereal the worst thing in the world for you?
No,
it's up there. Though.
It's actually great after you work out.
Yeah. See, there's hope, everybody, for cereal.
But you're a sugar addict from the sounds of it.
I'm a big advocate of saving cereal. I think that the fitness industry is slowly killing cereal products, and I'm upset about that. I think a cereal has a place. I mix it right in the oatmeal. I don't give a fuck. Everyone used to call me fat. I don't care. I don't care that I'm fat.
It depends how much calories you burn or what your metabolism is.
So when is sugar? I am a sugar addict. So when can I have sugar?
Honestly, sugar is the worst thing for you.
Come on, give me something.
People that end up with more heart issues or whatever else, the sugar.
Don't be Jay Cutler, the trainer, right now.
I know, but I'm just telling you, like, sugars are not necessarily. But after you train or during the training, so if you're gonna like sip on Gatorade, which I was always a fan of the powdered Gatorade because it contains a lot of dextrose, right? And your body's gonna suck that up like a sponge. So when you train, I would sip on like the powdered. I mix it up and I would drink it as I train because it's going to fuel the muscles and keep the glycogen. Right?
Does that even still exist?
Yeah, you buy it at Costco.
It's very 90s. Yeah. I got to get
simple,
on that.
Simple. But people are worried about I need to buy Vitargo or some sort of carbohydrate starch. Just make it simple and make it affordable.
Gatorade. Yeah, I like my desserts, and I've been trying, Jay. I've tried hypnosis. I had a hypnotist in here, for Christ's sakes. I'm trying everything. I like a good brownie or a pile of cookies. Do you think The Rock actually eats that shit he posts when he's like, I had this pile of cookies?
Yeah, I believe it.
How does
his metabolism so fast?
How do I get away with that?
Listen, The Rock isn't genetically the most leanest guy. If you look at his old pictures, he's just very active at these days,
Yeah, I mean, is that something that's blowing your mind right now that you're seeing guys? It has to be doing it into such a late age, because I feel like that wasn't going on. Like when we were younger, I mean, and I say we were, coming up through the rags and looking at the magazine, I didn't see a lot of guys into their 45, 50 years old, and now you see it.
Yeah, man, fitness is growing. It's the look, and everyone thinks The Rock is huge. He's not really huge.
No, I've seen him.
He's a lean, more slender, but listen, people are just more self-conscious about how they look, as far as they want to look better, and that we have different tricks of the trade now that allow us to look that way.
There's just more availability.
Yeah, with the internet, and you can see, okay, there's intermittent fasting now, which 4 years ago I would have said that's the dumbest thing ever. Because I was just a hard-headed bodybuilder, but now I believe in to a certain extent. You have, carb cycling, which has been around for quite some time, but it's just more relative these days. The keto diets work for a lot of people, but I'm not a huge fan of it, because once you get back to eating carbs, you're going to have a problem with that.
Right. I mean, I was going to ask you about that. What diets have you seen come on in the last couple of years that you're just kind of like...
Keto and vegan. And obviously, remember, I grew up as a farmer.
Sorry, Rob Bailey. What do you say about the vegan thing?
It's not my thing, but I understand it for some people. I mean...
Now, Rory lost 125 pounds. And we have... Rory, what advice would you give Rory? You're echoing in there, so you got to kill the echo. But what advice would you give him? Because clearly he needs it to get through the last couple stages. How do we get Rory to ripped with abs? Is there a magic wand we can wave, Jay?
No, he's gonna have to do a carb cycling. So 3 days low carbs, on the fourth day bump that up, but the protein goes down. So basically like a moderate protein, lower carbohydrate, except for that one spike on the fourth day. He's just going to be disciplined. It's just consistency with the diet and some sort of training or cardio.
I see Rory walk around here with string cheese. Is string cheese acceptable?
No, it's not so good, Rory.
What about the Lunchables?
No good.
Rory, any questions from the booth?
No, he's 100% right. I mean, it's.
But listen, you've already done quite a bit of transformation, so congratulations on that. It's just what it took to lose that. You just got to get a little more discipline to keep that journey going.
Which leads me to the next thing. I've been taking Rory to Teriyaki Boy. You have an affiliation with this local place, Teriyaki Boy. We're in there regularly. I'm exposing everybody to the Teriyaki Boy diet. How did that come about, and how the fuck do you have a bowl named after you? Because now when I call Bruce, I got to hear, I'm coming up there. We got to get a J bowl.
You know what's funny is I had there was another place formerly in one of the locations where Teriyaki Boy is near Rainbow, on North Rainbow. There's like 5 locations in Vegas Valley now. And they had a Mr. O double O bowl, and then I won my 3rd one, and it became a triple O bowl. And it was kind of like the same thing, and then they went out of business, and then Teriyaki Boy came in, and when I met the owners, they were like, man, you're such a huge figurehead of this thing. We want you involved with this. So they set up this table, and you send me the pictures when you sit there. It says reserved for Jay Cutler.
I always sit in it. I'm like, you tell that fucking guy I'm taking his seat.
But what I'll tell anyone that and anyone that has a restaurant or like kind of like even the meal services, if you have a signature bowl of someone with a figurehead that says, okay, this is the signature of
that got me there.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot easier to sell it, and then you can just walk in and say, I want a J bowl, right?
Yeah.
They figure, okay, it's the only bowl on the menu, and it's a huge seller for them, even though it's 12 ounces of meat, it's onions and some garlic and whatever else. And these people sit in one sitting. What they don't realize is that bowl was actually split into double portions for me a lot of the times.
Ooh, that's breaking news. So he didn't eat it in one sitting, because I was going to get into
Once
that.
in a while I did. I'm not going to lie. But
I have to split that into 2 sittings, and I'm fat.
But you don't get the Jay Cutler bowl. Someone already spilled the beans about that.
I've gotten the Mongolian beef in a Jay Cutler bowl format once. It's an upcharge, but they'll do it for you in the building. But it's awesome to me when I go in there, and they speak very very highly about you. But he explained to me that one time you were going on a road trip, and you were flying on a plane. Now tell me if this is a true story. You got 7 of them for a 24-hour flight.
Yeah, probably.
Did you eat them completely?
Yeah. I eat every 2 hours.
So that's 12 ounces times 7. So it's like 80-something, 90 ounces, whatever it is. Rory, do the math. It's a ton of fucking meat. And is that typical when you're training for Olympia? And everybody sees, like I said, the Machiavelli motivation and the piles of food. When you were becoming a mass monster and you were growing, did you ever just get sick and tired of fucking chewing?
All I did was eat. So between 3 and 4 pounds of meat a day, and I mentioned always 800 to 1,000 grams of carbohydrates a day. So for me, it was just like you got tired of it. And when I retired, I can tell you that was the most exciting part about my retirement was, okay, now I don't have to eat the calories. I can be more restrictive.
Do you ever cheat and have sweets and stuff like that?
I almost got stuck in an In-N-Out drive-thru last night, but I decided maybe today. You have an In-N-Out burger here?
Yeah.
Have you had it yet?
I had it once.
Hey, I don't even touch In-N-Out burger.
So what does a Jay Cutler cheat meal look like for everybody out there? Because people don't talk about this enough, the dark side.
It's a burger and fries. Mainly burger and fries. I'm not a huge sweets. I used to be a huge carrot cake eater. I used to like carrot cake from Cheesecake Factory.
Oh,
they have those big carrot cakes, right?
Oh, yeah.
Pizza's not a huge thing, but if I choose pizza, it's going to be Grimaldi's. There's great pizza here.
I gotta write that down. I haven't found good pizza here.
Yeah, Grimaldi's is pretty good. There's a lot of East Coast pizza places here, but
so you go to In-N-Out. It's not like one burger though.
No, I eat two double patty, single slice of cheese. No salt, grilled onions, ketchup, mustard, pickles.
Fries.
Well done, no salt. Nothing has salt on it. I get everything with no salt.
Why?
Because then I can add my own. That's how you should always add it. Even when you order a steak at like Ruth Chris or Morton's, remember they're always putting butter and seasoning on that steak, so I would always get it plain.
And then season it yourself. If you had to kind of choose one meal for the rest of your life, you would probably go with chicken and rice or something like that, or steak and rice. You're that disciplined.
I love to eat very bland. Don't ask me why. It's a little crazy, but I have my egg whites and oatmeal for breakfast. My favorite meal of the day is breakfast.
Mine too. Oh, I hate people that don't like breakfast. I'm in a fight right now with someone over that. It's a big deal.
What was your breakfast this morning?
This morning I had 6 eggs. You'd be proud. I had 6 eggs. I have 2 wholes.
Okay.
And I do the 4 whites. I buy the rack and then I buy the whites.
Yeah.
And I'll pour the whites in and I'll mix it up, and I have 2 they're healthy, you know, like the low sodium sausage links.
Yeah.
I'll cut them up and mix it right in it and stir it up. And then I have those. I have the Ezekiel bread, kind of like you do. You know what I mean?
I have the raisin bread, though.
Yeah, the raisin's good. I'll buy a couple of loaves. You know, the Ezekiel bread's funny because some of the stores you go in, there's fucking none left, so you have to get what you get.
Well, you have to go in the freezer section, or if you go to Whole Foods or
yeah, I got to go to Whole Foods
Trader
and Summerlin
Joe's or whatever.
something.
Yeah,
and
they have it.
And crush them. Once in a while, I'll indulge with the bagels. You know what I mean? If I want something a little heavier, like, you know, I do believe in the muffin pump theory. I don't know if you buy into that.
I had it last night.
Yeah, I do believe in that. Once in a while, I'll have that or like a Pop-Tart or something, and it gives me a little extra zip. You know what I mean? But I'm doing the jiu-jitsu too, Jay. So I'm on the mats, you know, 3 nights a week, and then on Sundays I do open mat up in Henderson. So I'm burning a fuck ton of calories. And, you know, I'm surprised being in this area. You don't get a lot of nutrition. You don't do a lot. You're kind of like Brandon. You don't take on any nutrition client. You're not like really consulting with anybody.
I just don't have the time to, you know, constantly stop to reevaluate things other than my business. And, you know, it's like for me, I like to try to help people, but at the same time, I don't want to be responsible for them eating a cheat and then having to back it up and try to fix the mistake. They're not. If they were robots, it'd be a lot easier. But
yeah, like people ask me all the time, "Oh, take me shooting and teach me," and I'm like, I don't. I have all the cert, everything, but I don't instruct. Like I go down, I do Tony's course a couple times a year to RSO and help him with some of the Leo stuff, but I don't have the patience. You know what I mean? Like I can't sit there with somebody that says, "Oh, I'm tired. Oh, I'm not in the mood." I go to the gym. I'm an army of one. That's why I said to you, I want to train one day. Because I really just I don't want to deal with like the bullshit. Like if you just said, hey, meet me here at this time, I'd be there and like, let's go. You know, I don't want to deal with the bullshit in between. I don't have the patience. You have to have patience for that, I think. I mean, at least for me, I can't speak
How
for
often do you shoot, though, just for your own?
For my own self right now, I'm going to the range probably once or twice a month. I'm there a ton with guests. Like we were just there, Rory, a couple weeks ago with a guest. And usually when I'm there, I'll let the guest shoot. I'll take a pull on something, you know, just to fuck around. There'll be like a mag laying around. I'll shoot something. But I try to stay up on my pistol shooting as best I can. But if you're shooting anywhere from 500 to 1,000 rounds a month, you're going to stay in a good place. You're going to be able
What if you don't?
It's a perishable skill. It will perish. Shooting is like anything else. It's like swinging a baseball bat. It's like lifting weights. It's perishable. Lifting weights stays with you a lot longer, but I try to stay on top of it enough because where I'm doing demos and I'm out there, I have to be able to. I mean, people are going to be like, "Oh, you can't shoot and you work for gun companies." You know what I mean? So I try to stay on top, kind of like you with the lifting.
But do you enjoy it? Do you like? Is there like a sense of relief when you say, "I'm going to go shoot at some targets," or?
So I think you can attest to this. Somewhere along the way, you know, I started out working in finance. Then went to the police academy. After that, I got into this kind of quickly, and somewhere along the way, everything that you do becomes a job. You know, it becomes a job. I mean, it's a lifestyle, but it's a job. Do I want to go to the range when I'm not working? Not all the time. You know, I mean, it depends who I'm with. I like to go by myself because then I can work on some things that maybe I want to get better at and that I enjoy. I would never say I hate it. It's like saying you hate the gym.
Yeah. But it becomes a job. I understand.
It becomes a job. You know, it becomes work. I'm sure, you know, if I could have one wish, if I had a genie in front of me, you want to do the Aladdin game, it would be to be in shape and never have to go to the gym. That would be my wish.
Yeah, but see, if you called me, like, say, Thursday and said, hey, you want to go to the range, I'd say no.
Yeah, but if I asked you to go to the gym, you'd say yeah.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
That's where we're different.
Depends on the schedule, you know, but that's what I'm going to do on a daily basis. But to say, okay, I need to pull 2 hours out of my schedule to drive to location and go to a range.
No, you can go in an indoor. I mean, you could go local, like right down the road.
Yeah,
here
but that's 30 minutes. The strip's 30 minutes from me.
Yeah, but 702 is right here.
Yeah. Well, that's still 30 minutes from my house. So no matter what, unless I say, hey, I'm going to go from my office there.
We'll just shoot in the backyard. Just don't tell the neighbors. But yeah, I mean, it depends. A lot of guys are getting into archery right now. Like that's another one.
My brothers were big in, they were big bow hunters.
Big bow hunters.
Still, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there's guys who get into certain things. As far as like, you know, me, I do it more for defense. That's how I came up. I mean, growing up in East Boston, people always say, how the fuck did you get into guns? I got exposed to it early on, and then I went out to Amherst where I went to college, which, you know, there's fucking nothing out there.
Yeah.
So my roommate, shot a ton, so we would shoot occasionally. And when I came back, I had a love for it, and I love training, and I just always gravitated towards the training. It wasn't until I went to the academy too that kind of reinvigorated. Geez, I really like this side of it, and I was like, I want to kind of focus on this side of it, and I got pulled into it really quickly. Companies started asking me to do demos and stuff like that, and social media was becoming big, so it helped. I mean, it was just a little push, a little nudge, and I enjoy improving and getting better at shooting at the targets. I mean, target shooting's a lot of fun, and getting out there and doing the tactical training. It was a good way for me to do cardio, and I didn't really have to do the cardio. I felt like, just like the walks and everything else, it erased a lot of the headache that comes with having to do it. That's why I think people get into boxing. And now I'm doing the jiu-jitsu a ton. I've been doing the jiu-jitsu a ton lately, and that keeps me in shape, and I don't feel like I'm running, because I always hated running on a treadmill. It was one thing about me. I can't do, like, guy gets up there and he walks for
that's
3
why I
hours.
walk outside.
Yeah, I like you and Mark Bell are killing the internet with that right now, like the 10-minute walks. Like, that's and like you said, it's more a mental thing, and I do it at night. I think Dave and I do it at least 3 nights a week. That's something you got to get into, Rory. That would help you, the walks. You got to do the walks. But
you know what I've been doing lately, though? Even last night, I did legs last night at like 10 o'clock. I trained. But I do like 5 rounds of all-out fan bike, with the arms. And I do that for 30 seconds, and I rest 2 minutes between. But I go all out with my arms and legs, and I do 5 rounds of that, and that's what I've been doing lately, and it's just boosts your heart rate through the roof. But I do that at night now.
You trying to get to 120?
I want to get lean. I want to get leaner.
No,
without having to diet extremely hard.
I mean, 120 beats.
Oh, I don't know.
You'll never see 120.
I don't measure my heart rate. I've never worn a heart rate monitor ever in my life.
What do you want to? How lean do you want to get?
I would like to be 225.
Oh, you're fucking crazy.
240 now.
I'd love to be 225. Is there a hope for me?
As far as what?
Being in shape.
Yeah, I mean, but not eating the cereals and all the shit that you're doing,
You're supposed to say.
I mean, I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot sitting here listening. That your discipline's not so good with your nutrition.
It's horrific.
So no, there's no hope then.
There's no hope. I have to mail it in. At the end of the day, I should just be fat. So let me see if we have any questions. I've been neglecting everybody. If there's any questions coming through, I don't know if we had any, Rory. So, have you ever kept in shape while baling hay? Somebody asked that. Was there?
I was a kid.
Yeah. Did you ever
I was
do
picking corn?
Picking corn. Jesus.
More than baling. Now my dad and they do the round bales now, so it's all just wraps and there's nothing really to it anymore, right? You don't. I remember picking up hay bales and throwing them into the trailer and unloading them. Yeah, that was a lot of work.
Was there ever a time where that would serve as a workout for you? Because I know now,
I was too young. I got into weight training at 18, so. If you want to compare it, yeah, of course it was a workout, but I wasn't into my physique at that point.
I got to ask you a couple questions people want to know, because I got a million of them before this started. Who is a guy you've trained with that's not in the who's the toughest guy you've ever trained with bodybuilding? And then
Ronnie Coleman, yeah.
And then not in bodybuilding. A wrestler, anybody that you were like, geez, they can fucking train.
No, I mean, training partners that pushed me pretty good. But I don't think anyone's really because my style's a certain way and no one conned me in doing their style. So I move fast and I do a lot of volume. So I hated training with people, to be honest. I always did just kind of my own thing.
I'm a little bit the same way. I didn't have like Tony always wants to do crazy shit, and halfway through I'll be like, "You're on your own, dude. I'm gonna go over here. Like I don't need to jump through a flaming hoop today. Like I'm good, or jump over a car, light myself on fire. I'm good with that." But I think that there's a lot of exciting people to train with out there, because collaborations are the new thing. Everybody wants to collaborate the last couple of years. There's some people that intrigue me. Is there ever anyone you look at and you're like, geez, it might be cool to train with them, or I'd like to see that?
Not necessarily. I mean, I like I said, I love training, but I like training my way. So I don't have anyone that I look at as like, oh man, that's something I'd like to do.
Is there any way you haven't been that you want to go?
Thailand.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, Thailand. And I don't know why I haven't been there, but I heard it's beautiful.
Because you've been everywhere.
Yeah, I've been everywhere, but I'm planning a trip to go to Thailand and Bali, and all these places. I mean, I'd like to do it off an Australia trip because it's close, right?
What do you say to that explosion in gyms? Like Chris Gethinger's got the whole India thing going on. Like,
It's cool. I mean, I had that opportunity too, but there's 1.4 billion people in that, in India. So,
and they're riding fucking bikes. There's like
but there's so many. There's just fitness is big there, but it's not a place that I really want to go to all the time. I mean, I love my Indian fans, but I toured there for like 2 weeks at one point. I just, honestly, John, I hate being away from home. And so that involves a lot of time. If I'm going to go there, I'm going to spend a little more time. I'm not just going to go for a day or two and come back.
Is there a hobby through the years that you haven't picked up that you wish you did, or you wish you had more time
golf. I want to golf.
I'll golf with you.
I want to golf.
I play a little bit too myself. So
yeah, I want to. I'm actually, I was doing legs last night. I was in the gym, and I'm squatting, and I only squat like a plate on each side now, which is nothing, right? And I'm thinking, man, I should take up golf.
Yeah. Why don't we go? Why don't we plan a day? We'll go. I'll go. I'll play.
I mean, I'm gonna suck, but
I played in high school.
Yeah, see, I'd never played, so I don't even know if I would be accurate to be able to hit the ball. To be honest, I was very athletic, but I'll be honest. Since I lost a lot of coordination with the size, and even when I thought I was going to go roller skating and like destroy it. Like I was like, damn, okay, because I can skate. I can ice skate. I got on ice skates again last year.
Yeah, because you were from Worcester. Everybody out there thinks they're a fucking NHL player.
But I did everything. It was great at baseball and football, and I played some basketball. I wasn't as great coordinated even back then to even dribble with my left as much because I didn't play sports growing up as a kid. My family was like, I was an outdoors person, but I worked the concrete, so I didn't have a lot of like teaching other than the playing in football and doing track and stuff. So I was very muscular, and I had a lot of speed to me, and that's why I was a pretty good football player.
Football was like the only sport really that we had any hope with in New England. I think we all kind of started out thinking maybe hoops. But I was short, fat, and Italian. It wasn't happening for me. I legitimately thought I was good at basketball, and that was a sin. There was absolutely no hope for me and no chance. A lot of us played football. We had a couple of good football towns. I know Worcester had a few, and that was really the only hope sports-wise. There was some good baseball. A little good baseball out there. Which brings me to the next thing. Is it surprised you at all, being a champion from New England and from that area, that there's so many championships coming out of there right now? Do you feel like it's something in the water and so many guys are, because I look at the dynasty of New England and I put you in there.
I mean, you got a great coach, right, that puts together great players from all over the place.
The Bruins and the Red Sox in the mix every year.
Yeah, so, I mean, they're just very...
You don't feel like it's the town coming into its own?
No, I just think it's you have great coaching that knows their shit and brings in the right players and knows how to build championship. I mean, when you have a lot on your a lot of great shoes to fill, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of championships won there by the Celtics and whatever else. I mean, it's just they draft the right people, and I think the Celtics are going to. I don't know how they're going to be this.
They're always, they're always in that top 5 in the East. And I follow the Celtics kind of closely. They got that kid Taco Fall now, is like 7'6". They're on the cusp. I think what Danny's doing there is interesting. But of course, you have to look at Tom Brady and what him and Bill Belichick have done, which has been exciting to watch for us. I know that. I mean, it's hard not to be a Patriots fan. You know what I mean? And then, of course, the Bruins are the last couple of years, every 3-4 years they're in there. Every 3-4 years they're in there. And the Red Sox, the same thing. I think the baseball thing is kind of been exciting because we lived through that era of no championship. Finally, we got one, which is fun. And you were right in there with 4 Olympias and being a guy from the area. And even not to discount, but look at what Jose's done. Winning a gazillion contests. I think he has he's got to be knocking on the door of some of the most pro wins. I mean, he's got like 9 million pro cards. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, he was a great amateur. He's opened up a gym now.
Where is it? Where's it going to be?
It's
a Waltham.
Woburn. He's open in Woburn, but I'm actually, we have our YouTube channel, the Jay Cutler TV channel, and I'm going to actually do an interview with him the next few weeks.
He actually, it's funny. He and I have ties. He's married to Michaela, and her family owns a restaurant.
Yeah, I went there to eat breakfast.
Yeah, in the neighborhood, and I'm friends with the whole family. And I've known Michaela for a long time, and known her brother. And her brother is a huge gun guy. So when you see her brother, mention my name, he'll go nuts. Like he's he's always buying shit every day. He thinks like the zombies are coming and all that shit. And Jose's not into it, so he tells me, he's like, I tell Jose I got this, and this. I got like 19 Glocks. I'm like, dude, you need to like shoot once in a while. He just collects them, But they're a fun family, and he's got a great structure around him. They're awesome people, and the restaurant, and they're just great people.
He may be making a comeback.
You think so?
I don't know.
You know some things?
Yes. Hey, John, I'll jump in here for a second.
Go ahead.
And ask Jay a question that I'm sure has probably been on a lot of people's minds over the years. So but go back to your training days, and obviously every day you're eating a lot, you're going to the gym a lot. Was there ever a time when you just woke up one day and you're like, I don't want to do this anymore, or maybe several days? And when that was the case, what did you do to motivate yourself to get up and keep going forward?
I looked at myself in the mirror. It happened a lot of days, by the way. And I said, who are you? And what do you represent? And I always had that mindset of like, okay, people are following me, and people are influenced by me, and people are motivated by me. Get off your ass and do it, But there were days I said, you know what, today's not the day. And I closed up, and I've been to the gym, turned around and left. But it makes you regroup stronger for the next one. And there's always variables that cause that confusion with your body or your mind that you think, okay, I don't want to train. I can tell you I've shown up at the gym and I'm like, man, I should skip. I don't feel this. And then I walk in the gym and train. Some of those are the best workouts, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So just sometimes it's a mental block.
I've done that too. I've pulled up at times. I went to jiu-jitsu one night just recently. This is like just last week, and my whole body was sore because, like I said, I'm not too flexible, and as I've been getting more and more stretched out through jiu-jitsu and everything else, I was just so fucking beat up from the eyebrows down. I just kind of was like, I'm going to hang out and watch tonight, coach. And he's like, all right, man, don't be a fucking pussy all night. Getting in my grill, which I respond to well. Like, I like that stuff. But I was like, nah, I just need a minute. You know what I mean? And you just go through those motions, and like you said, I think you come back stronger. And it's funny how social media is. I think this is one of the positives of social media, and I'm going to get into what you think of social media. It's a positive in the sense that you do feel that responsibility to, like, now I've built this thing, and I have to see it through, and I have to push myself, and I got to push even harder. And even if you have one follower, I say this to people all the time that say to me, well, I don't have a big following. I say, who fucking cares? If one person's watching you and they get any motivation from you whatsoever, or you're putting positive vibes out there, you have a responsibility to continue to push forward and do the best that you can and try to be the best version of you that you can be. I mean, you owe it to yourself first, but of course, if someone looks at you for inspiration, don't discount that.
Yeah.
I mean, don't for 1 second. I have people that DM me, and I'm fucking nobody, and they're like, hey, you posted the other day that you got up at 4 o'clock in the morning, because I'm perpetually up early. I'm up at 4 a.m. and they're like, wow, like that's awesome. I need to start getting up early. I need to start training. If one person, and there are days people have DM'd me and I get a lift from it,
Nah, but listen, I mean, I hate when people say I'm a nobody, because, in the end, there's always every single person, and it's, anyone in this building, there's a person that looks up to that person.
That's a good point. That
is influenced in a positive way. So we, meaning you and I, we're just on a higher platform than most people, right? We're in the public's eye a little more because we're apparent in our industries. But, I hate, you're not a nobody. Your influence is positive to somebody around you, and you never know, because, listen, I was in a nowhere USA, Sterling, Mass, thinking, okay, I can't change anything in this world. And now, fast forward this many years later, here I am, left a legacy in the bodybuilding arena, and continue now to inspire people to go after their dreams and chase whatever they want. And, remember, in Mass, we get a lot more negativity, I think, than out here. So everyone used to tell me, oh, there's no way you can do this.
Oh, yeah, you get that every day.
And I did it, I did it. And my family would question what I was doing.
Of course.
Youngest of 7 kids, no one lifts weights in my family. And my dad's like, how can you ever make money doing this? Like, come work, do the concrete, work with us. You know, they wanted me to take over the concrete business, and I thought, okay, that's the last thing I'm going to do because I didn't want to lug forms my whole life.
And they thought you were fucking nuts.
Well, and then now, look, you know, they're super proud, but listen, they're all successful in their own sense. They just chose a different path, and I'm not knocking what anyone does. I just found my lane, and I stayed in it, and that's why I always support everyone around me.
For me, it was I didn't have the platform to go and be a champion in a sport. That wasn't what I did. For me, it was a lifestyle choice that led to certain things. And along the way, one thing I always did, Jay, was I accepted my own mortality really well. Like I when I went out and I would train, I would do these things with Tony and stuff. I was running the company. I got to a point where I was like, I can't be, Johnny Holder rifle for the rest of my life. I got to figure out what the next step is. And I started doing podcasts and started dabbling with that. And everybody always said, look, you have great network and you have the ability to shoot the shit and be a blabbermouth, go out there. And I was like, fucking podcasting. Yeah. And like, I started getting into that and, I'm enjoying the ride and it's fun. If I had stayed in finance and was working in a bank like I was, or even stayed in a cruiser and sat, with a radar, I never would have had the opportunity to meet the president, to call some of the people I call my friends. Those opportunities never would have come, and it's just been a blessing. And when I say I'm a nobody, that's like the masshole in me kind of kicking myself all the time, and I love doing that. But social media does a good job of kicking everybody. I mean, how do you deal with the haters, and how do you deal with the bullshit people spit?
I don't know. I don't see anything negative in my life. So
you had a great statement on one of the motivational things. You're like, somebody would call me with negativity or bullshit, and I just hang up the phone.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah. I didn't want to hear about their problems or their girlfriend issues or, I was very selfish. But I was selfish to get to where I got to, right? I mean, everyone that's successful at something will tell you, hey, there's a bit of a sacrifice to get there, and sometimes it's a lonely road, But, when you achieve those things, you get a certain satisfaction to say, okay, I mean, look, I got into bodybuilding, and I took it as far as I could ever take it and beyond. So as far as the competitive side, you can't do anything more than the Mr. Olympia. So you win it once, twice, 3, 4 times, You're like, man, you feel pretty accomplished, but at the same time, it doesn't stop there because the reason you got there is because you're more motivated than the average person. So now it's on to the bigger and better things. I mean, if you said to me, well, Jay, what's the next goal? I'm not trying to have the best supplement company out there. I'm not trying to be like the man. I just want to make a change in our industry, meaning if I can be a person that 10 people, 20 people, 30 people can say, oh, I'm going to emulate this guy and follow what he did, because I just want to be a positive spin to sometimes where you just mentioned there's a lot of negativity with anything you do. I just want to be that guy, that my legacy continued as not only a great bodybuilder, but someone that represented and took advantage of as much as they possibly could with the certain things that were handed and worked for to him,
Yeah, it's not easy. I mean, the social media, and I know they're having summits on it in Washington right now. It's gotten to a place where I think it needs a little bit of regulation. I believe that. I think there's people behind, fake accounts, ghost accounts, this account. And I know you don't see it because it becomes like cannon fodder, but I think of like the little kids in schools and shit like that. You know what I mean? To you, when somebody says, hey, Jay, that was a half rep, you're like, fuck you.
No, you know what's a funny thing, John? I'm so zoned out and in my own world. I don't know anything that's going on in like current events or anything really.
Well, which brings me to this.
You just taught this 51.
Yeah,
but
we're storming Area 51.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it.
So somebody started a Facebook post, Rory. I don't know if you can pull it up. Someone started a Facebook post that said, we're going to storm Area 51 to find the aliens. And literally, the military, they just did an announcement today.
They have like bombs and like
Air
other
Force
shit, right?
is ready to go to, yeah. So if Rory
So tell me what happened.
So somebody started a Facebook group that said, we want to retake Area 51 and find the aliens. And 1.5 million people, I think it is, Rory, signed up for it. It said they were going. And it's between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. on a certain date. I don't know the exact date. I know Rory's pulling it up now. You got the date, Rory, when we're supposed to go to Area 51?
Yeah, it's looking like September 20th as of now. But it's the weird thing about it is it's obviously a big joke. But
Right, it's a hoax.
some people are taking it seriously from what it looks like on the internet. But they're asking everybody to meet down in Amargosa Valley, which is way south of Area 51 and not even anywhere near it. You know, it's like a 20-hour walk or like a 2 or 3 hour drive.
And so has Trump addressed this?
I mean, I haven't seen him.
I'm sure Junior has. Junior's probably all over it. Yeah, I'm sure Junior has in some meme. I'll ask him, but I'm sure he's fucking around with it. You know, he's probably like, you know, make America great again, make Area 51 great.
You know, it's so funny because, you know, tell a little story. I had a friend way back, and they swear that this alien thing is real.
And the Earth is flat.
Well, I know, but I'm just telling you, like, they said that, you know, this is someone, they knew someone military or whatever, that it was allowed access, and, like, but it's just, you would hear more about it if it was, right? Wouldn't people talk about it? It's kind of like, you know,
some of the best secrets are kept out in the open.
There's certain things that intrigued me, you know, like the Alcatraz story.
Yeah.
Did those guys really make it, you know? Didn't someone recently come out that says I was one of the Alcatraz survivors that escaped, and
it's like, who shot Kennedy? It's a whole thing.
There's a lot of things that intrigued me with
the Kennedy thing being from where we're from. I've spent hours watching like the Zapruder films. I've got hours of my life I'll never get back.
What's your take on it?
It was more than one gunman, 100%.
Really?
I can tell you this, being a shooter, that rifle, that situation. I don't know what you think, Rory, because I know you're a nut in there, but there's no way, in my opinion, that there was a magic bullet that did all those things, that took a left and went through a wrist and travel, and to take those shots in a moving vehicle, and he's had little to no training on that rifle. That was a rifle he bought in the back of a magazine, Jay, for like...
Yeah, it looked like a piece of shit
rifle. It was a piece of shit rifle with irons, and he was shooting a .30 caliber bullet, if I recall.
How far was it?
It was something like X amount of feet in a moving car taking a turn, and he hit 2 pinpoint shots, one to the head and one to the neck of Kennedy. And you're going to tell me there was... I don't believe in the grassy knoll theory. I believe in the storm drain theory. I think there was someone in the storm drain that took another shot or multiple shots, but there's no fucking way. I mean, I don't have the Warren report in front of me, but...
we're talking about 90 yards is what we're talking about. I mean, it's not hard to make a 100-yard shot with almost any rifle, with almost any person with minimal training. But and that's nowadays though. Mm-hmm. But I mean, back then, I mean, you're talking about buying a rifle that
on the back of a comic book, the back of a Sears and Roebuck catalog.
You know, the rifling back then and the tooling used to make that rifling probably wasn't very accurate. I mean, buying a gun out of the mail order catalog back then, I don't think it would have the accuracy. I mean, I think at 100 yards, it's probably going to be 5 MOA. You know, I don't think the accuracy would.
I don't think the MOA was there. Not for him to make the neck and head shot in a moving vehicle like that. I just have a really hard time. And the whole thing was set up for a shoot because the top was down. He's taking a slow, casual ride near high buildings. You never, ever see the president do that, ever. Even before that, it was a hard time to find presidents that did that. There's no footage of it. Do you ever see footage of another president riding around in a car like that?
I mean,
ever.
And we're also talking about, I mean, the shots had to have been fired within a very short space of time. If he's not, used to working a gun like that, then that's going to take him a little bit to get that done, a few seconds extra. And not to mention, a lot of people are saying that the car at the time was obscured by an oak tree. Mm-hmm. And they also pointed out as well, saying we were just talking about that the gun used in that was an unpredictably, unreliable gun for pulling off a shot that accurate. And they even said the gun itself even had some mechanical problems itself, but they, a lot of people point out the moving car, the oak tree, the quick, rapid succession of the shots, the rifle being of, horrible quality.
There's no question that Lee Harvey Oswald was a patsy in that situation. There's then Jack Ruby kills him. I mean, come on. Yeah. And they shoveled this all into everybody's throat, and they expect everybody to swallow it. It was
they did.
Yeah, and it was neat. It was very neat.
So as far as the aliens,
I'm going to touch on the JFK thing on one last thing about it, and we'll get back to the aliens. There was actually a guy that was an expert rifleman from the U.S. Army, and they also brought in some expert riflemen from the FBI that actually did attempt to duplicate what Oswald did, and they failed to achieve the combination of accuracy and the speed needed
because it was a bolt
to
action.
make it happen. They said, 2 hits out of 3 within about 6 seconds. They said they just couldn't duplicate it.
Yeah, there's no fucking way. And as far as the aliens, I actually, I'm going to say something that people might get weird with me. I think aliens do exist. I think we have some type of alien technology. We landed a plane on the fucking moon in '69, and you're going to tell me since that time to now we haven't done any deep space exploration or we haven't discovered anything. I think horse shit I call foul. There's definitely been some type of interaction with something in all of these universes let's assume that there's even 100 universes like ours. You're going to tell me there's not one other planet like ours that has life or has the potential to grow life? Horse shit. There absolutely is. Do I think we've traveled to them or we've been to them? I don't know about that, but I do believe alien technology has reached this planet because look at the progress since even the telephone that we've grown leaps and bounds. It's crazy to think of. I know we're getting into a crazy space, but I'm telling you, there's absolutely alien technology on this planet. There's no doubt in my mind. No doubt. I have no doubts. Go back. What is it? I think, Rory, since 1890, which is essentially less than a couple hundred years ago. So we're talking, we've gone from the telephone to now literally you can land in London in a couple hours. I mean, we've gone from think about even the internet. You can do everything. You have more technology in your cell phone than was on the lunar lander. Mm-hmm. And Steve Jobs just did that. He was just that smart.
I mean, technology grows over time, especially computer technology. I mean, we've gone from a time where, it took an entire room the size of the one that you're in to to now the cell phone technology that we have now in, 30 years, I think is about 30, 40 years is the right time frame. But, the question I always ask myself about, the whole alien technology that everybody brings up to the table is, what have we really heard coming out of Area 51 since the latest release of, let's say the Oxcart project, which was in essence the SR-71 project, right? The Blackbird.
Stealthing, cloaking devices.
We haven't heard a single thing, as far as I can recall and everything I've read and whatnot since then, a single official source about anything that's came out of there since then. And that was, I want to say early 70s, if I remember correctly. But we haven't heard a single thing that's came out of there or a technology that anybody points back to, the early days of this technology was Area 51, and we can say that now. They're very still tight-lipped on anything that's ever came out of there.
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at, now the president, we have bulletproof suits. They have these Kevlar helmets. I think it's only a matter of time before you see something like an Iron Man suit, something like that. I just think it's getting to that place, but I just have a hard time believing that there's not alien technology on this planet.
Yeah, that's. There's got to be something somewhere, but most recently there was a podcast that Bob Lazar did with Joe Rogan, and Bob Lazar, for anybody that doesn't know, was a guy that claims that he actually worked there, and he's provided some actual, solid stuff to prove that he worked there. Eventually he got caught because he took some friends out to go watch the alien craft, being tested and whatnot. But he gets into some pretty good detail about the things that were going on out there and the reverse engineering.
Yeah, because Joe's big into this shit. He's knee deep in it.
I'm going to research it after this.
Where do you stand on it?
I believe that they found the aliens in that spacecraft in Arizona, right? What year was that? I don't know what year.
Roswell?
Yeah, Roswell, yeah.
Yeah.
Are they green men?
I don't know if they're green, but I heard from what my source told me that they were like
my
source. That was like 47 though.
Those little they looked like the big heads, and
Yeah.
they were in a glass. They were in a glass.
I love that you said
thing.
my source,
Yeah.
my inside guy. I've put it this way.
They preserved them in like a glass thing.
Knowing what I do know about military technology and what little I do know about, and I say little about advanced military technology, I absolutely believe there's so much shit we don't see. You know, like I've seen setups of like night vision and cloaking devices and stuff that would blow people's fucking mind. You know what I mean? And you're gonna tell me we just like, you know, there's some really smart guy in a room that just designed that. You know what I mean? So there's definitely some reverse engineering. I don't know what goes into that. Rory would know better because I can't run a blender properly. So, you know, I definitely think there's some of that going on. Do you think the world's flat?
No.
You sure?
Yeah.
All right. Just checking. So the world's round. We have multiple universes and there are aliens. Mm-hmm. And you feel good about that?
Yeah.
Maybe we can teach the aliens bodybuilding and they can become customers of Cutler Nutrition. Yes. So we're getting, before we get off on a crazy conspiracy tangent, we're in 90 minutes. We went 90 minutes. We got to wrap it up. You got to eat.
Yeah.
We got to wrap it up.
I'm not sure about eat. I got to get to work.
You got to get to work. So anything else, Rory, on aliens or otherwise?
I mean, I'll just, the one big takeaway I took from watching that, 2-hour podcast with Bob Lazar the other day when I was just bored waiting for my car to get fixed, was the reverse engineering process that they were going through. Basically, they took a piece of the craft, each piece or area of it went to a different department and went to different scientists. And Bob got into pretty good detail about how they had this alien reactor that they were trying to reverse engineer and figure out what to do with it. And he would say that, he thinks that multiple people before him couldn't figure it out and he couldn't figure it out. So for all we know, all these years later, they're still up there trying to figure out how to reverse engineer any technology that that they came across. For all we know, they could still be up there testing it. They could still be up there, trying to figure it out, and they still haven't. From my personal experiences, which I'll throw out there, I used to do a lot of driving up north to that area of the world for certain projects.
Which is
and
where?
Stuff up towards Highway 93, going up to 318 towards Ely. I used to do a lot of work in that area up there for not for Area 51, obviously, but and
Undisclosed government organization.
One night about 3-4 months ago, I was driving up there, and there was a little white light in the sky. It looked like it was about 2,000 feet. And mind you, I'd made that drive 100 times, never seen a single thing. And about 200-300 feet in the sky was about just a big white dot, and it just kind of sat there and slowly moved, and then all of a sudden just took off. And it was on a Wednesday night that I was driving up there, and oddly enough, Bob Lazar had said that Wednesday night is the night that they do all of their testing because that's the night that the highway is least crowded. But, what I seen that night myself personally, it's unexplainable. So, they're probably still doing stuff up there all the time. We just don't know about it. And everybody's so tight-lipped because nobody wants to, feel the wrath of the government.
We got to let Jay go in a minute, but, I'll leave Jay with, how do you explain shit like the pyramids? You know what I'm saying? You're going to tell me some guy just fucking carried the rock and they had a pulley system, and we all saw that in our fucking social studies book. But, no fucking way. No fucking way. There's too much shit out there that there's just not a healthy way to explain it away, in my opinion. But you're going to tell me 5,000 Israelites did that, you know what I mean? And we're just supposed to believe it. But I don't know. We don't want to go that far. Maybe there was some crazy bodybuilders then that just weren't seeing the stage. So we had so much fun. This is fucking awesome. Because we're talking about everything and anything that doesn't involve bodybuilding. We could go off for 3 hours talking about the aliens. We'll do that on a separate episode. Pull Jay's IG up. Let's let Jay say where you can find him and what he's working on and what he wants to plug. Where can everybody find you and what's the best way to? Yeah, I know you don't do any training, but if somebody wants to, sign up or do whatever.
Just at Jay Cutler, Instagram. Jay Cutler 4X, Facebook. I do have the Cutler Club, which is.
Yeah.
It's kind of my online membership, which I do every 2 weeks. I do live feeds on there, so you can ask questions in my close Facebook group. I've put out ebooks. I have a volume training ebook, a nutrition ebook. So there's
What's
a lot
the best
of different
ebook
things.
right now?
The nutrition one's the latest, and that's kind of talks about the zigzag diets and and all the different types of cardio and fasted cardio and the best times to do that. So I'm working on that. But a lot of things in the works. I mean, I'm constantly doing things, doing appearances. This weekend I go to Buffalo, and following weekend I'm in San Jose, and then I promote a show in Virginia next for the
You're
Jay
at every
Cutler
show.
Classics. Yeah, I'm at a lot of events, but I'm active on YouTube, Jay Cutler TV. You can watch my daily vlogs on there, pretty much.
And you think YouTube's the way to go now? We were talking about that earlier.
You know what? I just think it's a way that people can see the real people.
I think that's your best consumable platform right now for you. I mean, I think you're doing awesome stuff on there. I love the shit on there. I get on there and
But
I'm
it's
watching.
just real shit. I mean, you just get on and my hair's a mess.
Yeah,
I get up in the morning. I don't give a shit. And
I watch you feed the dog.
yeah, I mean, it's real life things. And that's, people can only see you do chest training so many times or back training or legs. Listen, there's no secret to anything. It's a lot of hard work and dedication. Commitment to everything, just like we talked about. You have to find the time if you really want to do it. Unfortunately, today we're just overwhelmed by the product endorsements that a lot of us do, and I endorse some of the best supplements over my 20 years of career between Muscle Tech and.
What's your favorite brand you're working with that's not yours right now? Besides the J-Bulls.
No, I mean, listen, I don't really work with any brands that aren't mine.
Well, you got the Built thing now. That's
I mean, like Trifecta, but I'm an investor in all these things. Like the Built is like, this is, you talk about carbohydrates. This is a carbohydrate that doesn't spike your insulin level with platinose, so there's 20 grams of carbs in it, so great recovery product. But, I mean, there's just so many different, I use a lot of different products. People send me stuff every day.
Yeah.
Between,
No, of course.
nut butters and clothing brand. I'm working with a brand called Alpha Prime, which is a clothing brand that's really cool. And, I have my own stuff. I promote my own shirts and all my merchandise and, of course, my own supplement company. But there's so many great supplements out there. I mean, people send me stuff all the time that are, some of the stuff that I don't carry. I mean, I don't take protein really right now. I don't use anyone else's protein, but I use aminos and I use, some pre-workouts.
I'm going to get on the Builts. I think that's going to happen.
I'm going to send you a case. I'm going to make the call right now and have because I know you tried some of the flavors. You weren't so fond of one of the flavors you tried, but you need this. If you haven't tried the grape yet, I feel it's the best one.
Yeah, we got cases of Quest bars. We got cases of Black
I'll have
Water.
it sent.
We try to promote a healthy lifestyle here on the set, and we try to get everybody eating the right way. Before we wrap, I have to say I want to obviously thank Jay for taking the time. We went long. I appreciate the fuck out of him for stopping by. It means a ton. I've always been a fan. It's an honor to have you in. It's been a pleasure to kind of shoot the shit with you and talk about conspiracy theories and everything else under the sun. I know you got to get to work. I can't thank you enough. It's, if anybody gets the time or sees Jay at a show and he ever calls you a fat pig, he means it with the most loving sincerity. It's from the heart. It's one of the things he says. He's called me that a couple of times. I have to work on my diet. I'm out of control with the cereal and everything else. And Jay's going to take me under his wing. So 3 months from now, if I'm ripped and in shape, you can thank him in everything that all the wisdom he's instilled in me. If I'm fat and disgusting, you can blame him. It's his fault. No, but I appreciate the hell out of you coming down here and spending some time with us and visiting K-var. If you guys get the opportunity, go visit K-var. Go check out kvar.com. They're our flagship sponsor. I know, Rory, you're going to throw the website up there. Scroll through. Go check out the website. Go shopping. Go pick up something. I appreciate having you. It's been amazing.
I appreciate it, man. It's good to catch up.
Yeah, we'll have to get you back down here at some point, or we'll head over and we'll take some footage of the shop and we'll come check out some stuff. But seriously, genuinely, thank you.
Of course.
I mean it. And we're going to sign out.